I can introduce our first speaker of the day, Mike Hruska. Mike's experience and knowledge spans across standards, emerging technology, learning, and science. As a former researcher at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, he now provides technology, business model, and innovation solutions to Fortune 500, government, and startup companies. We are excited to have him here today to talk about the power of augmented enterprises. So without further ado, Mike, I will let you take over.
Thank you, Stephanie. I was trying to share, but I couldn't share. Now I can share. Thank you all for joining. I'm really excited to continue the conversations that we started with everyone at DevLearn. This is a really extremely exciting time in technology and for us in learning and development, frankly, and HR and leadership. I mean, organizations need to learn about the rapid transformation that's going on in the world. A couple things, QR code there will get you contact information for me. And I'm going to be referencing it a few times here, but that bit.ly/MikeH articles will take you to 4 plus articles in ATD magazine about augmented enterprises and some further information. I'm going to provide you a little bit of overview and a little bit of what's really going on with AI and transformation and evolution. And then we're going to dig into the idea of augmented enterprises. And then I'm going to show you some examples of things that we use because we decided we wanted to be an augmented enterprise ourselves. And we wanted to build our own intelligent agents to help us do our work in the enterprise. If you have any questions that are burning, throw them in the chat. Stephanie would love to poke at me and ask questions along the way. And I'm excited that y'all are here. So one of the questions I have for you is, what are you playing with? Because this is about play and being in the sandbox. There's so many emerging tools every single day. And OpenAI made some major announcements on Monday. So if you're playing with something, if you don't mind, throw it in the chat. It'd be cool for others to share. Now, let me point something out for you. This short URL, bit.ly/AI toolbox. This links to AI Daddy's research on his compilation of 600 plus tools. There's a tool for everything that's out there. It's a matter of finding what works for you. But the most important thing is getting out there and playing with things and learning about them and building your technical literacy for AI along the way. So a little bottom line up front. So this idea that AI is a thing, I firmly believe in. But if I told you that AI wasn't a thing, would you believe me? What if I said it's just really good software? So imagine that as a construct for a second. At the end of the day, we need to think about where to put software, how to configure software, and how to train people to use software most effectively. And this is what leads us to this idea of what we call the augmented enterprise. And that's an organization that uses AI, but we're not just empowering individuals, but we're empowering teams with the ability to augment their intelligence to increase their effectiveness, their output, enhance their creativity, even efficiency in some ways. And so we're really faced with this opportunity here to unlock what I would call collective intelligence. Inside of any organization, we have 2 fundamental patterns. 1, a place where knowledge is created, so a knowledge flow. And 2, a learning loop, a place where that knowledge is intersected by people that need to learn it, understand it, be able to bring it into their ability to perform along the way. So if you think about it, artificial intelligence in an enterprise can really enhance the knowledge flows of the organization. It can also enhance the learning loops. Certainly, you're all in an industry that has competition. And so building a competitive advantage for your organization is really key here. And as I mentioned earlier, and I'll probably say it again, you as L&D leaders, position your organization. This isn't about providing just learning for the masses. This is about helping your organization learn about the capabilities, learn about the potentials, and helping them turn the corner, into the future landscape that we're moving into super fast. When ChatGPT 3.5 was launched in December, my brother and I and our chief experience officer got together and said, all the things that we've been thinking about forever are all possible. These are no longer technology problems. They're engineering and they're change management problems. Those are the key things that we need to solve. So let's build the tools for ourselves that augment our own enterprise and augment our own intelligence. And that's some of the stuff I'm going to share with you today. I don't I don't know the age demographic of everyone here, but I can remember fax machines being around, and I can remember the internet coming, and I can remember people saying, "At internet thing is all hype." We're in an even radically different situation right now because we're dealing with what I would call an exponential technology. When we discovered electricity and its potentials for the world, we had to create ways to generate it, distribute it, transmit it, transformers, all of this infrastructure. When we discovered the ability to send telegrams, we had to put up little tiny poles and little tiny wires. And that eventually built what is our phone infrastructure, which was the first backbone for the internet. I'm sure if any of you remember dial-up and what that was like, you can hear that sound in your head. But when we got mobile phones, all we had to do was go around the earth and pick up some rare earth materials in specific quantities and compose them together into these lovely devices. The thing about AI is we have all of the distribution technologies in place. We have our laptops and computers, we have our phones, whether it's through an app or whether it's through the web or whether it's through a phone call. AI is kind of eating the world extremely quickly with massive advancements. The other thing why it's an exponential technology is you can use AI to make AI, and you can use AI to make AI better. So what used to take 4 or 8 or 12 months to build in terms of a product, in our experience, we're seeing things that we can build something in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and in less than 2 months, really have something solid in place that people are using and getting feedback on and evolving in an agile manner. Um, you know, Greg Brockman, who's a co-founder of AI, I think he nailed this. This is an amplification of what people can do. It's like hiring 6 assistants. What I often remind people of, especially when they're playing around with prompt engineering, is pretend a 20-year-old intern named Sam just walked in. They're smart, but they don't know how to do anything. You got to tell them everything you want to do. You can't say, Sam, write me an email to the CEO. You got to say, Sam, this is me. This is my goal. This is the context. This is the style. You've got to really be verbose in what you do. And if you're verbose, you can get some amazing results. Michael Chu from McKinsey Global says that 50% of the activities that we pay people to do can be automated by adapting. Here's what gets me: currently demonstrated technologies, because I completely agree with that. The thing that I don't necessarily agree with is we think it'll take decades. I don't think so. Companies are moving fast, and faster than you think. And your company may be moving in this direction, but the question is, are you moving faster than your competition? So, quick history here. This concept really started in the 50s. And while we were trying to get to the moon and trying to get in the space race, we kind of had a dark age in this. But advances in recent time and the massive investments that are happening from Silicon Valley are doing something that's been kind of unprecedented. So for decades, only weeks of progress happened. Now, decades of progress are happening in weeks. I don't know if anyone was at the OpenAI DevCon stuff on Monday, but they announced some amazing things that are going to be game changers for people implementing AI in the enterprise. Things are going to increase privacy and security and surety of responses. I always hear people freak out about the word hallucination. I don't really worry about that much because the AI agents that we built for our own use, and we do share them with other people, and they're useful and they're on guardrails and they do what they're supposed to do and they don't hallucinate because we trained them. Like if you had a baby dragon, it would probably cause some problems. It might light the wrong things on fire. But if you train that dragon really well and it listens to you all the time, it's a pretty powerful tool to have in your toolkit. So we're transforming at kind of like an amazing rate here. So I'm going to share with you, a couple of things, but I also want to take the opportunity to say we're at a point in time right now that when we look back 5 years from now, we're going to look back on what we're doing today like we look back on these things. We're just at the opening of the aperture of what the opportunity is in this space. So I want to unpack this idea of the augmented enterprise for you a little bit. And in the link, there are articles related to these elements. So number one is learning ecosystems thinking, understanding that our business and our learning organization are highly connected, understanding that there has to be an alignment between people, process, measurement, analytics, and experiences is paramount. So if we have a good, robust learning ecosystem and we're highly connected to our business and we share some KPIs, then we have the opportunity to become an adaptive learning organization. And I don't mean rolling out adaptive learning systems. I mean becoming an organization coupled with our business that is able to sense and augment and navigate the sea of change that's out in front of us. The third element of this is essentially, can we connect AI to individuals and can we augment the intelligence of teams to more quickly arrive at creative solutions, define innovations that we might bring to the business along the way, all with the idea that inside of our organization, we want to empower people to have a sense of collective intelligence. And we want to see more knowledge being created and more knowledge flowing in a friction-free manner along the way. It doesn't mean 19,000 more emails. It means the right amount of information at the right time along the way. So for us on this journey, as I said in December, we said we want to become this idea of this augmented enterprise. And we unpacked it to the idea of a virtual org chart. Certainly you have your organizational hierarchy, but if you have agents that serve one or more people, now you're starting to build a virtual org chart. These virtual org participants could be serving multiple people in the organization. These virtual org assistants could be working with each other as well to serve people in a meaningful way. So what happens a lot of times, and I've seen it often, is people will start with the job. Oh, we want to use AI to help our instructional designers or increase the efficiency so we can have less, or whatever it is. There's a range of different motivations that people have. Starting with the job is not the key. Starting with the work is the key. What are the things that we produce? What do we spend our time and energy accumulating to transform into some kind of artifact in some ways? So what I try to say to people is, this is a combo of people and machines working together. We're trying to solve problems. We're trying to gain insights. We're trying to create value. Let's think about the things that we create together and find ways to support the creation of those. Or the best way to think about it is atomize down to the smallest unit and find ways to automate that along the way. I don't know if anyone knows the name of Philip Dodds, but I do want to give a little bit of tribute here to Philip. He had a couple of major things he brought to the world. One was the musical instrument digital interface. Two, he was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But number three, and this should be number one, is he was the center point between the Department of Education, the Department of Labor, the Department of Defense, and the White House in the late 90s, and brought the Advanced Distributed Learning Initiative and SCORM together, that we all know well in this world, and set the stage for what we know as XAPI or Experience API. Philip would often quip, working code trumps all theory. So with that, I want to share with you what my experience is like kind of being in an augmented enterprise. Much like, this is my sort of intranet homepage, what we call Project Jarvis. And yes, I can speak to it. I'm not going to be demoing that here. But we have our standard intranet tools. But these are 13 different agents that I use, and each of our team members use some of these or some other combination of them. We've got about 25 of these in the wild inside of our organization. And so number one, we have something we call Pete. Pete was my mentor at the National Institute of Standards and Technology when I was a researcher there. Pete knew everything. He just knew about everything that you could ever imagine. And anything you asked him, he had an opinion about. And it was just fantastic to talk to. So we trained Pete on everything for 20 years that my company has done, every single thing. And every meeting that happens goes into Pete's institutional memory. And if I want to talk about a new product or a new service, or if I want to help design some advancement in the organization, I talk to my team, but then I really spend my time talking with Pete, gaming things out along the way. He's indispensable to me. I use him on a daily basis, multiple times a day, because he knows everything that everybody knows, but he's immediately accessible. And for me, this is a great knowledge flow example, because I'm able to create new knowledge by working with Pete. I also have something, because I do a lot of product development concepts. It knows all of our product development methodologies. It's loaded up with all of our favorite approaches for product development. It knows all about my templates. So when I talk to my product development agent, I can say very simple things to it, and it gives me extremely robust output. I have a decision support agent that doesn't know anything about me, it doesn't know anything about the company. It helps me make decisions in an objective way and ask me questions exhaustively until I arrive at the answers. Now, I have a consultant on anything, a sales enablement agent. I'm going to show you some examples of some of these. If I need to design a learning experience, I have all the functions possible that I need to ideate with a partner, whether I'm working on a proposal or research and development or SALs. I have those agents to work on, as well as our team. But if I need to learn about something, I have an adaptive learning agent that I'm able to say, I want to learn about rainbows, and I need to do some critical thinking along the way. And it's going to present me with information and scenarios and ask me questions and help me reflect and learn about that. I use that to learn about domains that I don't typically work in, like the refining of sucrose and other things that I don't know much about, but I need to know about it in order to be able to have intelligent conversations. And even have a team of intelligence analysts that I can tell a scenario to, and they will game out what they think is going on and tell me information that they think is necessary to come to an answer along the way. So, as I said, working code trumps all theory. Our marketing team uses a marketing agent. We feel, and with each of these, there's a level of not just efficiency in getting to the answer faster, but also getting to answers that are more effective, in their output along the way. So, our marketing agent does campaign design, helps plan account-based marketing, content development, blueprinting, insights, and role play around marketing. I don't know if you've read this, but there's a book called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow from Kahneman. And in that book, he outlines that the human brain has sort of two systems, system one and system two. System one is your sort of quick improv, and you don't think about it. It's just that stream of consciousness. And system two is more evaluative and analytical. And so if you think about it, for those of you that play with GPT or other LLM, text-based things, it's really good at doing system two thinking. If you said, Mike, write a 508-word blog about the benefits of dry aging meat, I could. It's going to take me a while, an hour, maybe 2 hours to get it right, get it good. I can get GPT to do that very quickly for me. But what I don't see a lot of, and what is an inherent design principle in the things that we're doing, is getting our system one thinking. I had a mentor that said, I don't know the answer to any of your problems, but you do. And my job is to ask you questions until you find it. So fundamentally, while a lot of our agents do system two thinking with us, a lot of them help us with our system one thinking by asking us questions and helping prod us along the way. As we're onboarding new folks, we're certainly glad to tell them about benefits and all of those other things, but we have an HR agent that everyone has access to. And as we're recruiting new team members, we send it to the agent out and say, talk to the HR agent. It knows more than we know, and it's incredibly accurate 100% of the time, which makes for a good sort of employee experience to start to interact with agents before they're interacting with them, on a more daily basis. As I said earlier, I have a variation of our Pete agent that knows everything about all of the stuff that people have access to, whether it's standard operating procedures or policies, understanding who our people are and understanding where their skills lie. I need someone that knows React Native and has worked on something in a C-store industry, and it will tell us the answers. And it knows all about the writings and the publications and websites and blogs. It's an indispensable part of our team when thinking about resourcing, thinking about where to build the organization, but it's all in one place. And then one of the things that's been insanely helpful for us that we've built, and that we're actually working with the folks at EOB for some to license this to other organizations, is a sales enablement agent. Sales is the number one thing for organizations, and some of you may touch the sales training function in your organization, or some of you could touch the sales training function. In our evaluation of this and our pilot programs that we're running, it saves salespeople 10 to 15%, sometimes more, in efficiency for planning or doing research. So if you wanted to build you a dossier on a client, it will. If you want it, because it knows all of our products and services, Or when we launch it for someone who knows all their products and services, if you want to craft that email, you want to craft that positioning statement, or if you want to practice a phone call, if you need help with technique selection, like some organizations use more than one sales model, and some organizations need the opportunity to practice. Like if you think about your sales team, you've got your best salesperson, and then you have a tailing curve of everyone else. Our concept here was, can we provide a tool that allows the best salesperson and their knowledge and the knowledge of the organization to be played with and to be practiced along the way? Could we get people to task faster on sales? Could we make them more effective? And also, could we provide them real-time performance support when they hit an objection from a customer about something? Can we provide that expert insight? So, you see your standard conversation model on the left side with GPT. In the center here, it was helping someone with the 20 companies in Pittsburgh that could benefit from our AI services because it knows all about them. And then the lower right here, different modes. So this is what we call a multi-agent agent. And so it's able to do core stuff because in the middle, this knows all of the different sales methodologies, open source information about them, from Sandler to Challenger to anything that's public on the internet. But this expert insight window, that's my Pete agent. It knows everything about the company, and it's extremely intelligent about handling objections, providing more information. So not only is this a prep and practice tool, but it provides real-time performance support. OpenAI had an outage a few weeks ago, and I got some notes from our sales team that said, I hope this never happens again. I felt like I didn't have like my tools. It's like almost like I didn't have the internet to do my job, because it's become such an indispensable part of our experience as an augmented enterprise. And then I think the last one here, and we're working with ELB on a beta program for this. So this is a learning experience design multi-agent. So it helps you with all of the bullets, on the left that are there, and even with things like SCORM and XAPI, helps you frame things for your SME collaboration. Your what I call an interrogation worksheet along the way, but does all things related to curriculum design and learning objectives and scenario-based design. This is a little bit dated. There are some other cool features that are going to be in the ELB beta program for this. So if that's something that you're interested in, please contact ELB and say, I'm interested in the beta program for the LXD agent. That'll be rolling out here in the near future. But once again, these are highly functional, highly useful things that stay within the guardrails for what you'd expect from corporate. So everything that I showed you here is text-based. Right now, you can imagine in the future, I might be practicing a role play for a customer, and I might have to go visit the customer. It would be nice if I could say, call me, I'd like to continue the conversation, and I could have a voice-to-voice conversation to be able to practice on the way, or get my facts down before I go to a client. So those are some of the things that we're building future forward along the way. Now, when you think about your own organization, you've got a complex landscape that's there. You have your stakeholders that ultimately want to make investments in this, but you need to, before you can make those investments, you got to understand the business case, right? If we do this, will the juice be worth the squeeze? And then what are the use cases inside of that business case? And if we wanted to test out a use case, what might a POC be for this? And then the real question comes down to this: do you have the data? Because you can have the smartest agent in the world, but it's only useful if it has the right data associated with it. So for us, we knew what data we needed inside of our sales agent, what we call Sales Sage, and now it's super functional because we identified a solid use case. We built the POC, we built it to scale, we added our data to it, and it was part of an overarching strategy and inside of our governance model for how we want to use AI in the organization, which is as a game changer. And within our capabilities, because we build software and we do change management and transformation. So as I said, this isn't a technology problem anymore. It's engineering and it's change management. And so when you look towards your future, these are some of the key things that you really want to start to think about. So on the inspiration side, like, why would we use AI? And if we used it, What is the hopeful outcome? What will we achieve? So, so what? We did a great science project and someone was happier at the job. That's good. That's helpful. But what else is there? What is the organizational outcome or meaning for that? And then the third thing is, how do we know? What is the metric that is inside of the business or KPI that we're targeting to say, if we do this, this will happen, and we'll know this is true when this number moves in some ways. And then the key thing, because we're all in different perspectives around this, and there's a lot of perceptions around this as well, is we've got to know what our stakeholders are considering. What are those key considerations? What are the things that people are afraid of? What are the known unknowns? So, security and hallucination come up over and over and over again along the way, IP leakage, things like that. And then what are the next steps, that we're seeing that are out in front of us? And then the last piece of that is this aspiration side. So what are our use cases? Inside of those use cases, what POCs might we build to kind of test out our beliefs and show something that could go to scale? And then do we have the data? Do we have the capabilities? And then what are our strategy, governance, and investments along the way? These form a sort of canvas, if you will, like a design thinking canvas that gives you the ability to visualize your future in one place. And Stephanie will tell you more about it, but ELB is offering AI readiness and transformation and boot camps as well, that you will be able to more quickly accelerate, not just bringing your future closer to you, but getting a better level of fidelity for your team and understanding technology literacy. What are the potentials? What is worth doing? How will you know it worked if you did it? These are critical things, because ultimately this is a transformation that everybody is going to face in the future. And it would be great as L&D and HR leaders that if you were able to lead the charge, I think that would be absolutely fantastic and would position you well for not just your organization, but for your career along the way. So I think a couple of things that are really key. I've seen a few places where there's just one person inside the organization that's excited about AI. It's a hard charge to do that. You got to start with a team that really believes in working together. There's a good book by Chris Hively called Build the Fort. Chris Hively was the founder of MapQuest. He said, you learned everything about a startup or a new venture when you were a kid building a fort. Find a team, find a shared dream, get spare parts, put something together, see what works, see what doesn't, beg, borrow, and steal and barter to get more parts to make it better. I think that same design pattern, exists here. And it's getting a team together and really starting to understand, what does this mean for the world? Could it mean for us? And how will we approach it? And then, as I said, working across the channels, on the previous slide. And then really defining prototypes and pilots. And you're only going to be able to make stuff by trying stuff and breaking stuff along the way. So I'm super appreciative that I got to share this time with you. I actually can't see the chat, but Stephanie, if you have any items that you want me to address, otherwise, please connect with me. You can find me on LinkedIn. My contact information's there, and glad to share the articles that are at that short URL link. And I appreciate the time today. And I'm hopeful that you will become the transformation agent in your enterprise.
Thank you so much, Mike. That was great. I think that was a really eye-opening look at how businesses can take advantage of this outside of just ChatGPT and doing something much more secure and tailored to your organization. So as Mike mentioned, yes, ELB's AI services team can help you with a lot of these things. We are offering the AI readiness, the boot camps, and it's all tailored to kind of your existing knowledge and experience and what you want out of it. Kristen very kindly pasted a link in the chat where if you fill out that form and tell us a little bit about your needs and your goals, we can walk you through that and help you with that. And there was the QR code. I think the QR code just goes to your LinkedIn, right, Mike? Because
I think it's just my contact information. I threw my LinkedIn there as well.
We're getting some comments that the QR code is not working, which is the theme of ELBX so far. We had some QR code problems yesterday, so it's just keeping the theme going, I guess. But yeah, you've got Mike's LinkedIn there in the chat. We did have, let's see, we had a question earlier about the term ecosystem. Is this describing like approaching business from a systems versus process perspective? Can you kind of talk a little bit more about the ecosystem and that buzzword?
Sure, absolutely. So an organization itself is a complex adaptive system, right? It's a combination of people, place, time, technology, in some ways. So, ecosystems thinking is something that helps us understand that there's a lot of interconnectedness that we don't necessarily see. When we have ecosystems thinking, um, I'm gonna try to snag an article on this real quick too for you to throw in here from HR.com on learning ecosystems. But it's the idea that these things are all interconnected. And so there's an ecosystem at the organizational level with the organization and L&D, in terms of the partnership there. But then there's the viewpoint that L&D has for the organization. And that is people, process, measurement, analytics, and experiences, but all aligned with the business strategy. So in the learning ecosystem, you have people, process, measurement, analytics, and experiences. But if you can focus those on the business strategy, that's what creates a tighter overall ecosystem for the organization, where L&D is highly focused on the things that really move the needle. I hope that is helpful.
I think that was a great definition. All right, let's see. Do we have any, if there are any more questions, go ahead and pop those in the chat or the Q&A panel. We've got a few more minutes before I will let Mike go. This is your chance. And if you enjoyed this presentation and you want to hear more about AI, tomorrow we are having a session from Mike's counterpart, Brooks, and he will be talking a lot more about security and privacy and those nitty-gritty questions that we all want answered about AI. So that is tomorrow at ELBX Online. Okay. Does the LXD agent integrate with other ELB products? Not at the moment, I don't think, but I am not the AI expert, so that would be a great question to put in that form that we linked to. The AI tools link, the one you shared at the very beginning, Mike, do you have that one handy?
I do, as long as you don't call me handy.
But never. I'll put that in my webinar notes. Never call Mike handy.
Yeah, I popped that back in. No worries.
If you're just starting with building AI agents for your company, where would you suggest you start?
Well, I tell everyone the answers for everything are on YouTube University, frankly. But if you don't have 6 to 8 to 12 hours a day to do it, you got to find someone that is steps ahead of you and learn from them along the way. I know ELB does it for groups, but I don't know if ELB does it for people that are from unaffiliated companies. But ELB does some AI boot camps to teach you sort of the anatomy of prompt engineering, and things that I've heard from people that come out of the boot camp say, I thought I knew what I was doing. I had no clue that I didn't really know what I was doing, and it could do all of that stuff. So that's a good spot to start, and you could do it for your organization. It's a good way to build technical literacy and a good way to build consensus amongst your stakeholders as well.
Absolutely. Which AI tools are quick wins for instructional designers to start experimenting with? Well, I mean, I will give one little plug for Lectora and Scenario VR. If you're a Lectora user, we have a new AI course creator feature in there. You put in your topic, a few other things like how many pages you want it to be, and then it makes you this really nice sort of outline of a course. It puts it into the slides, and then you just have to go in and kind of tweak it, add your branding, your pertinent information. And then in Scenario VR, we have a AI image creator, so you don't need to film your own content or have your own 360 images. You just type in what you want. Like, I want the library from Hogwarts with flying kittens, and it creates that image for you, and then you have a 360 image to use as your background. But those are very You'll be specific, of course. I'll let Mike give you perhaps some more generic suggestions.
Yeah, so a lot of companies have like said you can't use ChatGPT. You can't put our content in ChatGPT. We're going to block it from our corporate intranet. Nonetheless, people are still using it. I talk to people all the time like, "Yep, I paste stuff over. I email myself. I go to my other computer, do a whole bunch of work, then I email it back. What when you might call sneakernet, and do it." So if you don't have deep concerns about like leakage of IP, you could just start playing with GPT. Know this though, if you're playing with free GPT or even $20 a month stuff, they're going to take some of your stuff and it's going to be used to train stuff in the future. So I wouldn't put any highly proprietary stuff in there. The other thing that you could do is you could obfuscate it. You could use different words and then just use find and replace ultimately in your output. You could use a fake company name. Like you can use things like that if you just want to play around. But I would suggest, like I said earlier about Sam, tell it your name, tell it your experience, your degree, tell it what your goal is, tell it what you're looking for in terms of output, give it some examples so that it understands style, and then don't ask it to do anything. Ask, do you understand? And then it'll reflect all those things back to you. And as long as you feel that's accurate, now tell it what you want it to do. Just the same way you would with an intern. I got to check your comprehension. I've never worked with you before. Here's what you need to know about me and what I want to do. And here's what I need you to do for me inside of this context. Do you understand? We can stop thinking about it as a chatbot and think about it as an agent that if we tell it the right amount of things, it's going to be super helpful.